Raman. Thank you for coming. It's great to be here with you today, a second time. Yeah, so lucky. So before we dive into your story with Breer and everything, can we just go all the way back to your childhood? What were you like as a child?
What was I like as a child?
Yeah.
Very, very mischievous. But I would say just a hustler as a child as well. You know, like be it sports, be it school, be it anything. I was the kid who raised his hand. I was the kid who was usually up for everything. And I think my childhood was not the most normal because so I was born into this family of entrepreneurs. Like my entire family back in India, it's 3 generations of people just owning businesses.
What businesses was it?
So my family has a business in recycling. So very similar to what I do now,
right.
But my family does recycling of paper, plastic, e-waste. We recently are now exploring lithium-ion batteries. So we've had a business in recycling, right? And we've had other business interests in like metals, etc. So I have only seen entrepreneurship, right? Every day, like earlier we used to be more retail. So like my summer vacations were literally like accompanying my father to his shop and like doing my holiday homework there. But I think all of those things just add up when you see him negotiating with someone or you see him selling to someone. You're not actively involved in that activity, but you still are observing.
Yeah, you're
listening.
Absorbing the lessons,
Correct.
Right?
So I say this in every interview, right? That I think my childhood was unique because every dinner table conversation, because we live in a big joint family, so it's usually my father and my uncles, all of us sitting together and eating. Every conversation was about business. How much profit did we do? What's this stock at? Where is the Nifty, which is the similar to S&P 500 in India? Where is all of this? So every conversation was just like very business finance related. And I think that really shapes your DNA and your thinking into the fact that, if there's anything in this world, it's only business. There's nothing else. You can't be an engineer, you can't be a doctor, you can't be anything.
Wow.
You can only be a business person. So I think that really attributed to a lot of things what has happened in my life after that, right? Because I bought my first stock when I was 11. You know, like my dad really taught me about like simple interest, compound interest, what is saving, the 40, 30, 20, 10 rule, like all of these basic finance stuff I got to learn when I was like 10. So I think my childhood was a bit unique that way. And I mean, compared to other kids who go out and play like active sports, I used to be very active in chess. So more of a tactical, more of a tactical sport, nerdy sport. I was not a nerd. I was not good at academics in general, but I think, like chess is a sport where you learn how to think and you learn how to think 4 moves in advance, right?
Yes,
so I think that was really important in my early stages of life. So that's how I started. And, again, got to learn about all the finance stuff early on. But my childhood was really shaped by the experience when I started my company when I was still a child.
Yeah. So is this the one you started at age 13?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you mentioned that your family, they talked about finance and business pretty much every day, right?
Yeah.
In every conversation. That's actually is very unique, and you're quite lucky because this doesn't get taught in school.
Yeah.
So unless your family is actively teaching you about it, you don't know, and it seems like such a travesty because it's so important.
Correct. And it's not even conscious teaching. They are talking, right? You're just absorbing from conversation.
Yeah, they're not sitting down, right. So
because
this is
then a child will never learn. If my dad would be like, this is simple interest, learn the formula, I would have never learned it.
Reject it,
yes,
rebel
because it's rebellious, right? But because you see your uncles and your father talk about it and you see how this is good, this is money, it's good, I'm getting a new toy, and this is all because of the fact that the business is doing well. So then you figure out the flywheel.
Okay, so you make the connection between business good, new toy.
Correct, exactly, right?
Yeah, so can we talk about that first venture? What was the idea? How did it come about?
Yeah, so I think it stemmed from this unconscious education of finance, right? So I was in a very normal high school. We were still a very like middle class family. I wouldn't say poor, right? But we were a middle class family. And but because I was born into these concepts, but I thought that this is the norm. Everyone should know about it, right? But when I would go to my school, my friends would have no idea of like what is money, what is finance, what is saving, like no idea. For them, it was like they get their pocket money, they spend it on snacks and toys, repeat, that's it. There's no saving, there's no element of that. And then I was like, okay, I think there's definitely my role to play here, that if I've gotten the privilege to have this information early on, I need to spread this information with my peers, with my folks, with my other people in like school, right? So when I was 13, I came up with this idea where I would just go like school to school, I went to a school which had like 10 branches. So first those, and then, you build on from there, where I would just go and talk to students about financial literacy, about the fact that why are you not saving money? You should save some money. If you're getting a pocket money of like $10, you should save like $3 and spend the rest $7, right?
How did that go down with them? Because
it was,
13-year-olds, do they get it?
Yeah, so it was hard initially, right? Because it was also a learning journey for me, because it was hard to like first explain the most complex topics, right? But I think if anything, you communicate with the impact and the result first, I think people understand it well. For example, I would say you're 13 right now. If you start saving money, by the time you're 18, you might be able to afford your college on your own, right? So as an example like that, then people are like, oh, like it makes sense. College in India is not as expensive compared to other parts of the world, right? So I was like, you can easily afford your college education if you start saving today, right? So it grew from there. The first year when I was 13 to 14, like that year was really just like, it was free work. It was like me printing a pamphlet and distributing it to people, me going and doing a seminar, etc. All of these things, right? But I think after 1 year, people started understanding the message. And then what happened was schools and parents started coming back to me, right? That, hey, my kid was talking about this the other day, but he has no idea what to do or how to do, but he's keen. Now he's keen. So he wants to take the first step. And then I was like, okay, what do we do now? I've spread the message, but not every family is, that cultivating that they'll help you figure out the process of buying a stock. No one knows that. So the business was basically, you give me money, very small amounts, like $5, $10, $20, you give me money. And when 100 people will give me $20, I will pool all of that money together and then I will invest it into mutual funds. So it was just pooling of student money together and investing it into mutual funds. So we did that for 2 years. Obviously, we had to partner with someone who had a license, etc. So we did it in a licensed way, but we did that for 2 years. And then as a result of this, because a newspaper covered us, so it became like a viral story, more parents reached out, etc. So when the company was 3 years old, a big mutual fund house was basically wanting to launch something very similar. Like there's a product in the US called Bean Stocks, which is like kids being able to buy like half a share of Tesla, or like, very, very small percentage of Tesla as more as an education product. So they wanted to do something similar. And they were like, my company has the data of 20,000 students in tier 1 cities of India who have the initiation to save. Right? That's their prime target audience. So they basically bought the company and technically the data of the company to basically start advertising their product to this database.
Do you think the data is what the most valuable thing was?
Yeah, I think, because the deposits were nothing, right? The deposits were, I think the max it was like $20,000, which still is a lot, but like in the context of assets under management, it's nothing, right? But it was more the data of students, like 20,000 students, their parents, their phone numbers, their emails.
Wow.
So we had the data of, they could basically market the product to this audience.
Wow.
So.
Okay, well, that's amazing. At 13, it's really cool that you realized, the value of the financial education that you had, because I think most 13-year-olds wouldn't realize that they have something special compared to other people. Like, what do you think made you realize that?
I
Were
think
you told by your parents?
I think it's a mix of privilege, but at the same time also just this knack of your like curiosity. You know, I think I've always had this knack that if I have access to something, I want to basically make something out of it, right? So if I had access to the privilege where my parents or my family ecosystem or environment taught me about this early on, then I acknowledge that privilege, that I was born into that opportunity. But that also means that I saw the gap that other students don't have access to this, right? So, and for me, you know, like I think everything I've done in life, right, it's always been, oh, you're probably not the right age to do this. But I don't wait is what I think, you know, like sets me apart. That if I see an opportunity, I just go into it.
Just go for it.
Yeah, like because I mean, I
don't
love
overthink.
Yeah, because I love this word called
Mm.
analysis paralysis, right? That you
Yeah.
can keep analyzing and you can keep chasing this hypothetical idea of perfection that I will be 18 and then I will be adult enough to start a company. But then you're like, oh, now I'm in college, so maybe I do it after college. And then, oh, I want to do a job, then I do it after the job. The tomorrow will never come, right? So for me, it's always like I acknowledge the privilege. I was born into that. And I want to use that to actually, you know, like spread good. So that was the idea.
Did you have a moment when you realized you didn't need anyone else's permission to start stuff? You know, as
Actually,
a kid?
yes. It was very funny that you bring this up, right? And I think that's the, first of all, first ever time someone has asked me this question. I've done like over 20, 25 podcasts in Hong Kong, right? But it was very unique what happened. Do you want to stop? Continue?
Did it suddenly get... Okay.
Kinda darker. Wait, oh, okay. I think it's back up.
Let me see how it...
Oh, I think it's back up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Threat of violence worked. Yeah, sorry, go on.
So another daring thing which so basically I was born into, again, that sort of privilege where if I wanted to go to a friend's birthday, right, we had a family driver who would basically drive me to that party or that event. And once I remember, I was doing after school practice for chess, and then my school was like around 20 kilometers away from my home, right? And usually when it was after school practice, either it would be carpool, a friend's father would take me back, or my driver would be there, etc. But that day, none of it happened. And then, without informing my parents, I took the self-initiative of taking public transport back home when I was like 12 or something. And this is Delhi, this is dangerous, right? And I think like my father scolded me for doing it. He said you should have looked for a phone at the reception, called me, etc. and we could have arranged. But I was like, after I did that once, it was a very liberating feeling that, you know, like I can go to one place, from place A to place B on my own now. I know how to do it. And I don't need parental supervision or like a guardian supervision to do it. I think that, I mean, it's not fully related, but I think it unlocked a level of confidence or autonomy in me that, you know, like I can take public transport in one of the riskiest cities in the world alone as a 12-year-old.
It's so like Hunger Games out there.
Yeah, so I can do anything in life, right? So that was the really unlock moment for me.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
That your rite of passage is taking the bus in Delhi.
It was, trust me, I will challenge you to that till day. It's scary.
No, I wouldn't do it. No, I've never been to Delhi, but I've heard.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's so cool. That's amazing. So, what else did you feel was missing from education? Was it just financial literacy? Literacy, or was it anything else?
I think in general, like the reason of me coming to Hong Kong is that the Indian education is not very forward looking. I think that's the downside of Indian education, that a lot of it is still backward looking, you know, what happened in the past, but
like
not
in terms of what?
Like there's no knowledge of like technology, there's no knowledge of AI, I mean AI is maybe more of a new thing, right? But even when I was in high school, right, there's no, like you're not taught about money at all. Basically zero information about money, zero information about sustainability, zero information about all the things which are relevant in today's world. You don't get any information. Even for history, for a matter of fact, we're not even taught our history. We were taught like French history. I did not hear about Indian history, but I hear about French Revolution more in our history books, right?
That's strange.
So the Indian education in India, at least, is very backward looking, I would say. And that's why I wanted to, like make a path of my own. I think education is very important as a skill, more like a social skill, because you go to school, you make friends, you learn how to speak to people, you get access to different opportunities. Like when I was in school, I also represented India at like Wharton Business School for like a stock investment competition. So I think a lot of these things, right? So I think school is good for these opportunities and resources, but education, I think, is still a big missing piece in India. And like concepts, like I've seen the DSC curriculum here, I've seen my cousins who are in like Singapore or the US and their curriculum, like it's a lot more practical based, come and do a presentation, like make a PPT or think of an idea, think of a thought. There's nothing like this in the Indian education. Like there's no thinking.
Oh, is that why? Because the reason I asked that is that why you started the Young Tycoons Business Challenge? Was that during school?
So it was just after school. It was it was when I was starting Breer, actually. It was at the same time.
Okay.
But I think that it's a very interesting segue that you bring this up, right? Because when I was building my first company, so as to like learn more about business while I was building the company as well, I enrolled in this competition, which is done by an organization called TIE, the Indus Entrepreneurs, and they run this competition globally called TYE, which is the Young Entrepreneurs. And it's like it's one of the flagship programs for like high school students to learn about entrepreneurship. Like you have the CEO of Coca-Cola coming and speaking to like 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds about business. And like you really get to learn about IP, business, finance, tech, a lot of these different things. And with the idea, with what I was building, I actually finished third globally in that global competition as well. And I was like, that was such a good crash course on like how to, not even how to be an entrepreneur, how to build an entrepreneurial mindset, which is more important than how to be an entrepreneur, right? So then I was like, when my cousins would ask me, we want to do something similar, I was like, why is there no other program like this? Because there's only one program which has achieved this scale compared to any other program which have been started, right? So when I was in university, first year of university, we were starting Breer. There were protests in Hong Kong. After just that, there was COVID in Hong Kong. And I was like, I was bored, right? Because even with Breer, like we couldn't make any product at that time because there was an alcohol sale ban in Hong Kong. So you technically couldn't make any product.
Was there?
Yeah.
When?
In the first wave of COVID, there was all alcohol, like basically bars were shut down. And then when bars are shut down, you won't make because the bars are not buying, right? So technically, no alcohol was being sold in Hong Kong.
Oh, okay. But there wasn't a ban on alcohol.
No, it was not a ban on alcohol, but it was a ban on bars. Like bars could not be open, right?
That's
so it's a supply problem in that way. So no brewery was operating. Everyone was sitting at their home. So I was like, I'm bored, right? And then I called up my best friend from high school and I'm like, I want to do something for high school students because I'm just bored, right? And in 2 days, we came up with this idea of creating Young Tycoons Business Challenge, which was basically a 3 or 4 month long competition where the idea was that students would come with a business idea and then they would go through 5 rounds of screening, right? So like, obviously you start with a big funnel and then you keep reducing it till the grand final. But during this entire period, there would be like workshops, there would be seminars, there would be pitching sessions, there would be a lot of these things which will inculcate again the entrepreneurial mindset. So we partnered with a local edtech company in India, and then we were fortunate enough to partner with an organization from Harvard called Harvard Student Agencies. So we got like really good credibility, we got great sponsors, and literally started out of the phone call and a passion project. And then we literally just went out with marketing. We partnered with a few schools which we had connections with across in India and also globally, because there were schools which had like global branches as well. And then we just started going out. The edtech company which was in India also helped us spread the message in like other parts of the world. And first year we got 20,000 students participating in it.
20,000?
Yeah.
That's huge.
And students is second thing from 80 countries.
That's amazing.
Like 80 countries. There were countries which I hadn't even heard of before. And there were students from that country participating. And if someone asks me, right, yes, Breer is great, but if someone asks me like what is one thing I'm most proud of, it's the idea that there were students from like South Sudan, like places in Africa which probably don't even have education right now.
Yeah.
But because they had internet, they were actually learning from an MD of Goldman Sachs. They were learning from, Deloitte and so many other companies which I was able to get on board for the competition. And I was like, this is what I should be proud of. Like, even if 5 school students grow up to become entrepreneurs and they, tail it back to this competition, that would be a great achievement for my life.
Yeah, it
right?
would. And you'd also help their local community as well, wherever they're from.
Exactly.
So it's got this ripple effect,
Yeah.
doesn't it? But yeah, how did that first year go with 20,000 students?
Oh.
Was it like online?
It was online. It was
Yeah.
fully online.
How did it
And
go?
then at the peak of it, I built a team of 250 students who were also students, but basically in the organizing committee and participating in the competition. So there were 250 organizing committee students. We had a massive engine of 300 people working on this competition. Like, obviously everything was done on Zoom, but it was, we were at one point managing like over 100 mentors, 20,000 participants. We had to build like an entire app. So my best friend is an engineer, right? So he built out an entire application submission portal where you can submit and then the judges could come in and scoring everything. And it was all very new for us. There was no AI, there was no vibe coding at this time of time that you could build up a website in 10 minutes, right? So we had to do it from scratch. But it was a very, very rewarding time of our lives, right? Obviously, we did it for 2 years. First year it was 20,000. The next year was 25,000 participants, like over 1,000 plus schools. And I think because of the sponsorship we raised, I checked globally, we were actually the competition which was giving the highest amount in cash prizes for a high school competition. We gave out like close to 25,000 US dollars in cash prizes to students.
Wow.
So it was, so I remember the team which won the first year was a team from the US. And then because we got some decent PR around it, so they were building batteries, like some fission batteries. And then actually Duracell noticed it, like the battery brand, and they actually called them in for like a licensing agreement arrangement, something like that.
Oh,
so
wow,
for like 14 years old,
That's
right?
amazing.
So it was very rewarding. It was a wonderful experience. I was literally doing it with my best friends. We had the best time organizing the whole thing. So it was amazing.
Yeah, that sounds really nice. Was there any notable, apart from that one you just mentioned, any notable like student business or pitch idea that really stuck out to you?
Yeah, I mean, there were so many, right? There's one which recently featured on like Shark Tank India as well. So that competition, that idea really started with our competition, and like 4 or 5 years later, it pitched on Shark Tank India recently. It was like a Montessori learning play kit for like kids, right? And it was like another school student building it. And then the second year, the team which won was also a team from the US, which was basically created a faster method for Alzheimer's recognition or something like that, like as a technology play. So like they created a faster method for that. They also created something for Parkinson's. So like I was just blown away, and I think that was the reason why I started this competition, right? Because in university, you get a lot of access and opportunities if you're at the right university, obviously. But the school students are just ignored because people think they're too young.
Yeah.
Which is true. But that doesn't mean that young means that they can't build things. And everyone knows that you're not going to make like $1 billion company when you're like 16, 17, right? But it's more about the mindset, because when they will go and do a job as well, this mindset is more important than the business itself.
Yeah.
So
I think there is a real hunger for practical education these days. You know, like Simon Squibb, he talks of, like I think he does.
What's your dream?
Yeah, what's your dream? And then he gives them money to start it up.
Correct,
and I do
One of
think
my mentees, Darren, actually received money from Simon Squibb.
Really?
He's building a sock brand in Hong Kong.
A sock brand?
Yeah. Shout out to Sababu Socks, Darren.
Where can we get them?
He sells in like Decathlon and a bunch of other places.
Okay, I buy my socks there.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. But lost my train of thought. But school is kind of, I've realized as I've gotten older that most of school is such a waste of time. It is like you learn just rote education, and now it's all obsolete because of AI. So yeah, we really do need more practical stuff
and social skills. I think
Yeah.
I really attribute the only thing which is good about schools and universities is social skills.
But is it though? Because at school you're paired with your peers, but you're not really interacting with older students and younger students.
I mean,
You're in the
that's
class with
more
the
your
same-
lookout, right? I would actually interact with a lot of older students.
Oh really? Would
Yeah.
you? Okay, maybe
Yeah.
that's a me problem.
I think I mean, yes, I agree with your point that it's not easy to, if you're like 13, you know, like you're in your adolescent age, and like the adult 16 would be like, why should I speak to you? But I think it's more subjective that way. But I think even with peers, right, like very simple life skills, like who taught me how to behave with girls, you know, like obviously girls are different than guys you can do whatever you want, but like girls you have to have a certain way, certain manner. Like I think it's school, it's conditioning, it's a lot of these things which you pick up when you're around your peers as well, right? So it's also a lot of those things. So
Yeah, true. So when you arrived at HKUST, you'd already started a bunch of ventures. So did you feel different from the other students there?
So my idea coming into HKUST was I was mesmerized by Hong Kong. So when I sold the first company, it's actually a funny story as well. When I sold the first company, then the entrepreneurial bug had caught me, right? And then I was like, okay, now I'm built to be an entrepreneur. So then I reached out to a couple of family friends, and then a family friend connected me to one of his friends, which was building a company in food tech. It was a company where if you say that I have tomatoes and bananas in my fridge, what can I cook a dish? So it was more like an AI, but for like recipes. And he was building this company. So I was like, I want to work with a startup. So he hired me as an intern when I was like 16 years old, while I was still in school. So he hired me as an intern. And then as part of this internship, he was traveling to Hong Kong for a conference called RISE. So it used to be the biggest startup conference of Asia, done by this person called Casey Lau, who's now my co-founder for the startup community we run. But so I came to Hong Kong as part of that internship, right? And I saw Casey speak on stage for the first time, and he was like, Hong Kong is the place to be. And then, you know, I think they had like Travis Kalanick from Uber and Brian Chesky from Airbnb, and they were like hyping up Hong Kong. And I'm like, I went back and I'm like, I want to go to Hong Kong. You know, I basically said I want to go outside India for education. So then I convinced my father to basically let me go abroad. But then sadly, I have an elder sister, and she was already in the US for her education. So my father was like, one of you needs to be closer to home, right? So now she had already made the choice because she's 3 years older to me. So I only got Singapore and Hong Kong as university options, like wherever you want to apply, because it's a 5-hour flight back home, you can reach home rather quickly. So you had to be in the East. So I applied Singapore, Hong Kong, I got into HKUST. Now, coming into HKUST, my idea was never that I want to start another company, right? Because I knew that it's a finance center, finance capital, maybe I become a banker. I had a natural tendency for startups and VC, so maybe VC could be interesting, but I had no idea. But first month of university, you know, like I saw another problem, which was the food waste problem. And then I couldn't resist myself. Like I was like, I need to do something. Like, yes, I have the dreams of becoming an investment banker or a VC, and plus a student loan on my head. But I was like,
the entrepreneur life is calling.
Correct. Yeah, it called and I couldn't say no.
Yeah, so I want to talk about that. I read on an article that you got this idea looking at a bakery one night, and they were like throwing stuff out. Can you just explain, what did you see? What happened?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think there's a background to that as well, right? So when I came to Hong Kong in general, I think a lot of things were a cultural shock to me, right? Because that was the first time I was like technically traveling abroad for like not a vacation, right? So it was still, I know other students who like spend 1 year here, 1 year there. Like for me, it was like first time coming to Hong Kong as a student. And then I saw so many cultural differences. Like one of the biggest cultural differences was food waste. And before even this bread episode, right? Say I'm sitting in a canteen and I have taken like a sandwich, a juice, and some rice. That's it. And that's what I want to finish because I know that's my appetite. local students would like fill up their plate with food, like fill up, and then basically run to class 10 minutes later, leaving like 90% of the food untouched, right? Like wasting. And like I remember even on the HKUST, like you have a gala dinner, like local students were wasting food like left, right, center, you know, like it was a buffet, like a Chinese buffet sort of a setup, massive amounts of food wasted. I was like, this is not normal, you know, like we don't do that in India. Yes, obviously you have the buffets and the weddings where you still have wastage, but not in general settings.
Not that to that extent.
Correct, right? So that was really the initial point where I saw this problem. And then because of HKUST, the idea of how we got to that bakery episode is HKUST is damn far, right? It's in Sai Kong, like in the middle of nowhere. It's extremely far.
It is.
And this was the time when protests were going on. So everything was shutting early anyway. So on campus, things were like shutting up early, etc. So a lot of things were shutting early. And this was the time when we were taking a midterm exam. So like second month into university, we were taking a midterm exam and it was ending at 9 p.m. in the night. Yeah, so it was, again, university of stress and tension, right? So it was ending at 9 p.m. in the night. And then it happened to be, so me and my co-founder, even though she was an engineer and I was a business student, this was more like a common course, like anyone could take it, right? So both of us were taking this course and both of us were hungry after that. So we were like, let's go get something to eat. But nothing was open on campus and the closest metropolis near our university is TKO, like Chunkano. Right, so we took a cab till there and then we were like, what is open here? And there was literally one bakery which was just open there, and it was also like all on the verge of like putting down the shutter, but we were like, can we eat something and you can continue the wrapping up of your bakery, etc. And while we were eating, like, you know, like we literally saw the baker got like one of those black rubbish bags which you put in a bin and like starting putting all of the bread in that rubbish bag.
Wow.
And then I was like, and then again, the curiosity stemming from childhood, I'm like, what are you going to do with the bread? And then he's like, throw it. And then I was like, what? Like, because bread can be stored. Bread is like something which you can store in the fridge for at least 3-4 days easily, right?
Yeah.
Bread can be stored. And he's like, throw it. And I'm like, why? You know, like he's like, because I don't have a refrigerator, so I can't store the bread. Donating the bread is a hassle because again, that time feeding Hong Kong was also just like, you know, finding its feet, etc. So donating the bread is a hassle, and then disposing the bread properly is also a cost. So the easiest thing, go to the outside dustbin and throw it. Right?
Yeah.
So that was really the identification of the problem, that this is a massive problem, you know, like not only people, restaurants are doing it, bakeries are doing it, everyone is doing it.
Yeah, and that's just one bakery, right?
Correct.
You must have thought of all the bakeries and all the restaurants
Correct.
in Hong Kong and even households as
Yeah,
well, right? That's a lot of bread.
Correct.
Yeah, I ran into this problem at my university in Scotland, where I used to work in a cafe and they had like a bakery section, and at the end they would also throw the bakeries, like all the pastries, all these like little cute brioches and things. And we once asked them, like me and the other staff, can we take them and donate them to like a local shelter? And they said no, because there's a health and safety.
Exactly.
So like all this food, and we've got hungry people, but we can't give it to them because of health and safety.
Because of the liability clauses.
Yeah, and I assume a lot of it is like that in Hong Kong as well, right? Like there's so much red tape to just doing what you think is a simple thing. Yeah, so after you saw that, did you immediately think of a business idea?
No. So
like
after
get to work?
Yes. So the problem was clear, right? But because this was not India and I did not have people who would have given me insights on the problem instantly, I was like, I need to learn about the problem more, right? Went online, did some searching. I'm like, there must be NGOs doing something about it. You know, it can't be like an isolated problem at this scale. So then I found NGOs like Feeding Hong Kong, Breadline, a lot of NGOs which are basically trying to collect food from these restaurants and then donating it to the underprivileged, right? And then me and my co-founder were like, we should go and volunteer with these NGOs. So we actually went and volunteered with Feeding Hong Kong to understand the bread supply chain. Like if I go to this bakery and I collect bread as a Feeding Hong Kong volunteer, where does the bread go? Who does the bread get distributed to? What kind of breads can we collect? Do we have a storage capacity and constraint? Because it's not like they have unlimited storage, right? So do we have a storage capacity or constraint, right? So we really understood the problem at depth. And we realized that even after the efforts of all of these charities, right, 30 to 40% of the bread is just purely landfill bread. Like it will go to the landfill because Feeding Hong Kong can't take it because it has some, like it was not packed in plastic, or it was, they don't have enough storage, or you need to have a certain type of bread, like you cannot have like meat bread, like there's a lot of these other concerns, right? So a big chunk of it was still getting wasted. So that was the problem analysis. The solution was the funniest story. I'm sure you've come across it in a podcast otherwise as well, but just quickly, right? Like the solution was the funniest story because I did not used to drink until I was 18, right? And then I came to the point when I was in Hong Kong, midterm exams had ended, and it was the first time where our seniors told us there's this wonderful land and place called Lang Kwai Fong. You know, like you have to experience it. So you go to Lang Kwai Fong, and I was still just getting myself up to speed. I was not like, yo, like let me get all the drinks in the town, right? And I was just near the bar in one of those nights, and I saw a bartender drinking something golden. But beer has a different consistency. You've obviously seen beer, right? It did not seem like the same consistency. And again, curiosity, I asked this bartender, what are you drinking? And he said, I'm drinking this drink called kvass, which is Kvass. It's a drink which is alcohol made by fermenting bread.
Yeah. So I'm from Ukraine.
Correct.
So
you
yeah,
probably
kvass
know
is like
kvass.
kind of like a staple drink there.
Exactly.
People would sell it on the side of roads because like
Correct.
water would be too expensive.
Correct.
And so people would just drink kvass
Correct.
to get hydrated.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's something that people do make at home.
Correct.
So can you
So
continue with the story?
that was the light bulb moment that
Yeah.
we have now understood the bread supply chain. There's a lot of bread getting wasted, and there's something which you can make from bread. So not necessarily starting an NGO also to distribute bread, but use the bread and create something out of the bread. And then basically that's when we learned that in school you're taught the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle, but you're not taught the U, which is upcycle. That you create something and you create something better out of it, right?
Yeah.
So that's what was the eureka, the light bulb moment, that we have the problem, now we have the solution, let's go and do it.